Epilepsy snd Seizures Learning Guide, Section 1 through Section 10 Part 1, number 1591, the 9th of April 2026, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation, Category, Epilepsy. Preface. Hi, my friends on various social media. Over the past 2 months, I have spent time self-studying epilepsy and seizures. And I have written a simple summary into parts over 6,000 words in total. These are not formal research papers, but rather my personal study notes. I would like to share them with anyone who may have interest in learning this area of neuroscience. Seizures are often related to stroke. In addition, about 85% of strokes, 75% of heart disease, 65% of chronic kidney disease, and approximately 40% to 50% of cancer and dementia are associated with long-term metabolic disorders, including obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and abnormal lipid levels. I apologize in advance that although I have tried my best to use plain language, some medical terms are unavoidable. These materials will be posted on YouTube soon by college students in Japan and Taiwan whom I sponsor. I sincerely appreciate their help through this simple knowledge-sharing effort. I hope that some lives may be saved, or at least benefit from a better understanding. Share it through various social media channels. In my own case, my life has benefited greatly from approximately 84,000 hours of self-study, including reading more than 10,000 medical journal articles and books, and writing about 1,600 single-authored medical research papers. My purpose has nothing to do with fame, power, or money. My goal has been to save my own life and to help others avoid going through the same painful journey. Jerry. Introduction. After spending 9.5 months studying stroke and writing about 280 stroke-related research papers, I have now begun studying epilepsy, especially seizures. Shortly after my first stroke on June 21, 2025, within 48 hours, I experienced multiple seizures and was hospitalized for 5 additional days. My initial understanding was that my seizures could be a consequence of my recent stroke. Immediately after the stroke, I needed to focus most of my time and energy on understanding my urgent and potentially life-threatening stroke condition. Therefore, only recently have I started learning about epilepsy by reading medical information related to epilepsy and seizures. I would like to summarize and document what I learned during this process. The following write-ups are not formal research papers or textbooks, but rather my personal learning notes that record my continuous understanding as it develops. Table of Contents. Section 1. What a seizure actually is. Section 2. How the brain electrical system works. Section 3. Why seizures start. Neuronal excitability. Section 4. How seizures spread across brain networks. Section 5. Types of seizures and their symptoms. Section 6. Stroke and post-stroke seizures. Section 7. The autonomic nervous system and brainstem influence. Section 8. Triggers that lower seizure threshold. Section 9. How physicians diagnose epilepsy. Section 10. Treatment principles for seizures and epilepsy. Section 11. Long-term brain adaptation and neuroplasticity. Section 12. Warning signs, prevention, and daily self-monitoring. Section 13. A system's view of seizures. Section 14. Seizures, brain energy, and metabolic stability. Section 15. Sleep, circadian rhythm, and seizure risk. Section 16. Brain networks and synchronization. Section 17. Recovery after a seizure. Section 18. Long-term monitoring and prevention. Section 19. Post-stroke epilepsy in adults. Section 20. Systems model of brain stability. Section 1. What is a seizure? The brain works using electrical signals. Nerve cells send signals to each other to control thinking, movement, feeling, and memory. Normally these signals are organized and stable. Different groups of nerve cells activate in a controlled pattern, while other cells remain quiet. This balance keeps brain function normal. A seizure happens when this balance is lost. A group of nerve cells suddenly sends too many electrical signals at the same time. The brain becomes overloaded and normal function is disturbed. In simple terms, a seizure is a temporary loss of electrical stability in the brain. The symptoms depend on which part of the brain is affected. A seizure may cause body shaking, muscle stiffness, confusion, unusual sensations, or loss of awareness. My first noticeable seizure involved loss of awareness on June 23, 2025. 2 days after my stroke and about 12 hours after being discharged from Stanford Hospital. During breakfast, my daughter noticed that I showed almost no response or emotional reaction while she was talking with me. Because this behavior was very unusual, she immediately took me back to Stanford Hospital. After conducting brain wave examinations, the doctors discovered that I had experienced several seizures. Some seizures last only a few seconds, while others may last several minutes. Epilepsy means the brain has developed a tendency to produce repeated seizures. An important concept is seizure threshold. Seizure threshold describes how easily a seizure can start. A stable brain has a high threshold and is harder to trigger. A vulnerable brain has a lower threshold and is easier to trigger. The key idea is stability of the brain signal system. Section 2. How brain signals work. The brain is built from billions of nerve cells called neurons. Each neuron has three main parts. Dendrites receive signals into the cell. The cell body, similar to a transistor in semiconductor chips, processes the information. The axon sends signals out to other cells. Information flows through the neuron in a simple direction: input, process, output. Neurons connect to each other through very small gaps. The gap between two nerve cells is called the septs. Signals cross the septs using chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. A neurotransmitter is a chemical used by nerve cell to communicate. Two important neurotransmitters are glutamate and GABA. Glutamate increases signal activity and makes neurons more active. GABA reduces signal activity and helps keep neurons stable. Normal brain function depends on balance. Signal activity must be strong enough to allow thinking and movement, but not so strong that the system becomes unstable. When the balance between signal increase and signal control is disturbed, neurons may fire too much. Too much firing can lead to seizure activity. Section 3. Why seizures start. Neurons normally fire signals in a controlled way. Some neurons may become too sensitive and fire too easily. This condition is called increased excitability. When excitability becomes too high, the signal system becomes unstable. Several conditions can increase excitability. Brain injury can damage normal signal pathways. Stroke can injure brain tissue and create unstable signal areas. Scar tissue can disrupt normal electrical flow. Metabolic problems such as unstable glucose or poor energy supply can affect neuron stability. Genetic factors may also influence how easily neurons fire. Chemical imbalance can also increase excitability. Again, there are two important neurotransmitters, glutamate and GABA. Too much glutamate increases signal activity. Too little GABA reduces signal control. When signal increase becomes too strong and signal control becomes too weak, many neurons may begin firing at the same time. When many neurons fire together suddenly, the brain experiences a signal surge. A seizure is essentially a sudden surge of abnormal electrical activity in the brain, where many neurons fire synchronously and excessively, disrupting normal signaling. The normal signal pattern is lost and brain function becomes temporarily unstable. This sudden instability produces seizure. The core mechanism of a seizure is loss of electrical signal stability in the brain. Section 4. How seizures spread. After a seizure starts, unstable electrical signals may spread through connected parts of the brain. Brain cells are linked together in networks. So when one area becomes unstable, nearby areas may also become unstable. Signals can first spread to nearby areas on the brain's surface called the cortex. The brain's surface controls thinking, sensation, and voluntary movement. Because nerve cells in this area are closely connected, unstable signals can gradually spread from one nearby area to another. Signals can also travel through longer signal pathways that connect distant parts of the brain. These pathways act like communication lines linking different brain regions. The thalamus is a deep brain structure that works as a signal transfer center relay center because it connects with many brain regions. It can distribute abnormal electrical signals widely if instability reaches it. If abnormal signals spread to both the left and right sides of the brain, the seizure becomes generalized, meaning a large portion of the brain becomes involved. Normally, the brain has built-in control systems that limit signal spread. These control systems use inhibitory signals, which calm down excessive activity. If this control system becomes weak, unstable signals can spread more easily. Section 5. Types of seizures. Seizures are grouped according to where they start and how much of the brain is involved. Focal seizures are also a brain signal surge, but the surge starts in one specific area of the brain, not the entire brain. To simple key ideas, focal seizure equals localized electrical surge in a limited brain region. Generalized seizure equals widespread surge involving both hemispheres. Focal seizures begin in one specific area of the brain. Because only one part of the brain is affected at the beginning, symptoms may involve only one function, such as movement of one arm, unusual sensation, visual disturbance, or emotional change. Focal aware seizures occur when the person remains conscious and aware, even though abnormal signals are present. The person may feel something unusual but can still respond. Focal impaired awareness seizures occur when awareness becomes reduced. The person may appear awake but is confused and may not respond normally. This description is consistent with my initial seizures on June 23, 2025. Generalized seizures involve both sides of the brain from the beginning, because larger areas of the brain are affected. Consciousness is often disturbed. Tonic-clonic seizures cause muscles to first become stiff and then produce repeated jerking movements. Loss of awareness usually occurs during this type of seizure. My seizures in June 23, 2025 was most likely focal impaired awareness seizure, not tonic-clonic seizures. The reason is that I had loss of awareness without strong body stiffening or repeated jerking movements. Tonic-clonic seizures almost always include obvious whole-body stiffness and jerking, which was not noticed in my June 23, 2025 seizure event. Therefore, my episode is more consistent with focal seizure affecting awareness. Absence seizures cause brief staring episodes. The person may suddenly pause for a few seconds and then return to normal activity. Myoclonic seizures cause sudden brief muscle jerks, often affecting the arms or shoulders. Atonic seizures cause sudden loss of muscle strength. The person may suddenly collapse or drop objects. Section 6. Stroke and post-stroke seizures. Stroke can damage brain tissue and disrupt normal signal pathways when blood supply is blocked or when bleeding occurs inside the brain. Nerve cells may be injured or die. After injury, the brain tissue may form scar areas. These damaged areas can create unstable electrical regions where abnormal signals may begin. These unstable areas are sometimes called seizure focus, meaning the location where abnormal signals start. Early seizures may occur soon after stroke because the injured brain tissue becomes irritated. Unstable inflammation, which is the body's reaction to injury, may temporarily increase signal instability. Late seizures may occur months or years later because the brain structure has changed after healing. Scar tissue and altered signal connections may create long-term instability. Hemorrhagic stroke involves bleeding inside the brain. Blood outside normal vessels can irritate brain tissue and disturb signal balance. Because of this irritation, hemorrhagic stroke may increase the seizure risk. My stroke on June 21, 2025 was a hemorrhagic stroke located near the pontine region of the brain. This area controls essential life functions, including heart rate, blood pressure, breathing pattern, swallowing, digestion, and sleep cycle. A stroke in this location is associated with a very high mortality rate. Section 7. Autonomic nervous system and brainstem influence. The autonomic nervous system controls body functions that operate automatically without conscious effort. These include heart rate, blood pressure, breathing pattern, digestion, and sleep cycle. The brainstem is a lower part of the brain that helps regulate many of these life support functions. It helps maintain stable breathing, circulation, and energy balance. Changes in these automatic body functions can influence brain stability. Blood circulation affects oxygen supply to brain cells. Sleep affects how the brain restores energy and repairs itself. Metabolic balance refers to stable energy supply within cells. If circulation becomes unstable, oxygen supply may fluctuate. If sleep is poor, brain recovery may be incomplete. If energy supply becomes unstable, nerve cells may become more sensitive, because brain cells depend on stable oxygen, stable energy, and stable sleep patterns. Disturbance in these systems may indirectly increase the likelihood of seizures. The brainstem usually does not directly cause seizures, but it influences the overall stability of the brain system. Section 8. Triggers that lower seizure threshold. Some conditions can temporarily make the brain easier to trigger into a seizure. These conditions lower the seizure threshold, meaning the brain becomes less stable and more sensitive to abnormal signals. Lack of sleep is one of the most common triggers. Sleep helps the brain restore energy and maintain signal balance. When sleep is insufficient, brain cells may become more excitable, meaning they fire signals more easily. Metabolic disturbances can also affect brain stability. Metabolic means the body's process of producing and using energy. For example, low blood glucose, low blood sugar reduces energy supply to brain cells. Electrolyte imbalance means abnormal levels of minerals such as sodium or potassium in the blood. These minerals help control electrical signals in nerve cells. When these levels become unstable, brain signals may also become unstable. Alcohol withdrawal or certain medications can disturb neurotransmitter balance. This is part 1.